A simple ban on political lying could radically transform our politics. I'm going to read into this argument piece from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline that a simple ban on political lying could radically transform our politics. Just one small step would trigger a whole series of positive changes to democratic life in the UK, argues Neal Lawson. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Before we read into the argument piece by Neal, the headline kind of speaks more for itself, really. I mean, I generally would like anybody who is watching this to leave a comment down below on the reasons why we shouldn't ban political lying. Because we need politicians to be truthful, honest about what they say, about what they do. And I know many of you are going to say, I don't trust any politicians. I have no faith in politics whatsoever. They're all a bunch of lies. They're all the same. So if that's your premise, then surely you would be in favour of political lying, of some kind of ban on political lying. Surely you would want that. And I generally would like the case of why we shouldn't be banning lying in politics. And we know that there are lying in politics. It's rife. We know that Reform have lied about politics. We know that both major parties have lied about politics. We know that there have been lies in politics, in particular here in the UK. Yes, we can talk about other nations, but I want to talk about UK specifically the House of Parliament, particularly MPs. I don't want to speak of Wales or Scotland and Northern Ireland, but they will have their fair share of political liars as well. But we're talking about the UK specifically here. And just think about, as it even says here, before we even read into this, just think about that. It puts politicians, the ones who are known liars, the ones who try to smear the lying, puts them in a very difficult and awkward position. The question also is, if you did ban political lying, what kind of punishment is it going to be? Now, is it going to be a fine? Is it going to be a trigger to by-election in their constituency? What would that be? And how would that look like? There's a lot of questions about the kind of banning on political lying. Of what kind are we talking about here? And I think that's also a question we need to talk about. Are we talking about if you become a politician? Are we talking about if you become an MP? Are we talking about if you become part of a political party? Where is that line, guys? So let's read this argument piece. So, imagine for a second that under pressure from a coalition led by comparison in politics, Keir Starmer's government suddenly and surprisingly backs a bill to ban lying and deception by politicians. Imagine that this decision, followed by the lead of the Welsh Government, who themselves have already committed to introduce legislation to prevent a deliberate factual deception by politicians and candidates, breaches will lead to disqualification from or barring from standing for elected office. Interesting. So this measure had widespread public support. Over 200,000 people had signed a petition calling for its introduction at Westminster, and polling by Opinium showed that 72% of the public supported it. Well, the problem is that, and I know we're going to get some people saying, yeah, but Regan, over 6 million people signed a petition calling for another general election. Yeah, but they weren't all from the UK. We know you can just make up a postcode and sign it. It's not that hard to get away with it. It was the same can be said for this petition. Not going to argue that either. From then on, something just seems to click as the sentiment of our political lives switch from deceit to truth. All of a sudden, the best of our politicians can find its voice, not to win by destroying your opponent, but by demonstrating a vision of realistic hope. People could still debate and disagree strongly, though not in the ways that polarize and struck the space to listen, learn, adapt, and grow. The law to stop politicians lying had a knock-on effect on the media, both old and new. From then on, with the space to breathe, we started enjoying a public debate in which dialogue was seen and felt to be the means by which society can negotiate a better future rather than have someone else's future imposed on us. As the public muscle of debate begins to strengthen, the push for wider democratic voice became unstoppable. The long bubbling and brewing campaign for proportional representation, which has seen the vast majority of the Labour Party members and trade unions back reform, finally swept away from the control freaks and bureaucrats at the top of the party. As soon as everyone's vote counted equally, the distorting impact of the few media mongrels, mega-rich donors and a few swing voters in a few swing seats were lost for good. Gone with it went the centralising control of Number 10 and the Treasury, as powers and money started to flow down not just to regions and councils, but to communities. Instead of just an endless life on the consumer treadmill, ironically, with less and less money to actually buy stuff, people saw themselves and each other as active citizens, not just picking and choosing what they wore, but how their streets and communities operated. And the thirst for collective voice couldn't just contain in the public realm, but soon seep into companies and enterprises, who reap the rewards of collaboration and innovation. On this new level policy playing field, ideas like a universal basic income and a 4-day week soon took hold. Investment for retrofitting every house in the building with the highest possible insulation standards and create hundreds of thousands of good, well-paid jobs dramatically lowered energy bills and took the country a huge way towards a net zero future. More time and more security fed the appetite for further reforms in a nation that was finding its voice and its way towards a good society. One, by definition, as the late Zygmunt Bauman had wrote, knows it is never good enough. That sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? In a week that sees the inauguration of Donald Trump as President of the United States of America for the second time, we need to know something different is better is possible. If we want to stop the lurch of the populist right here, then we must provide the levels of security and freedom people crave. The above scenario may appear to be a fantasy, but it is far from impossible. The Welsh Parliament have already committed to passing a bill banning politicians from lying, and polling shows the public back it. The Labour Party and the trade unions have been conveyed to proportional representation, and therefore the pure politics that goes with it. Companies around the world are finding that a 4-day week leads to greater productivity and happier workers. Universal income is being trialled, and the results show that people don't do less, but do more in terms of volunteering, training, education, and care. Small strategic steps can unlock big and bold changes. What we need is a political class who see that their job isn't to deliver to us, but allow the conditions for us to liberate ourselves and change the world together. A political class whose abiding motto is do today so that tomorrow you can do what you can't do today. This policy is not done to people, but by them. This is politics as pragmatic in its best sense of the word. Sure about the direction it's heading, but open to the route and always convinced that billions of power, citizens and democracy is the only way to both navigate that route and overcome the obstacles and the people that don't want us to be free and secure. Any country can become a beacon of the world, so why not ours? It just takes the first steps. As Raymond Williams, the Welsh cultural theorist, wrote so beautifully, the test of a true radical is to make hope possible, not despair convincing. Very powerful. I think it's very powerful. So again, in these final thoughts, I thought that was a very lovely piece, guys. In my final thoughts, why not ban political lying? What is the benefit of keeping politicians and allowing them to lie? What is really important that people need to understand is that how politicians set themselves an example is from the person above. When you look at how Keir Starmer is portraying himself as a Prime Minister, as an adult in the room, whether you like him, his policies, his personality, whatever you might be, he is acting like an adult. In stark comparison, if you look at how he has conducted himself as a Prime Minister, in comparison to Boris Johnson, in comparison to Rishi Sunak, in comparison to Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak consistently used private helicopters to get from A to B, wasting thousands of pounds of taxpayer money in doing so. Liz Truss, with her attitude and how she thought that her ideas of the economy sent everything spiraling. And whenever she conducted herself in interviews was absolutely horrible. Granted, Keir Starmer is not as good when it comes to, is not the best when it comes to sit-down interviews and whatnot. But he's certainly a hell of a lot better than Liz Truss is. Boris Johnson, one of the biggest and most prolific liars that we've had in British politics. The biggest liar, I think, out of all the prime ministers that we've ever had. The man consistently bluffed and shrugged off whenever it came to difficult and tough choices and questions. All these conservative politicians, they've never been in the best interest of the British public. Now, granted, Labour are nowhere near perfect, and they are flawed, and I agree that there are things that Labour have done and I'm not happy about. I've said it time and time again, and I will continue to keep saying it time and time again. But I generally think banning political lying could fundamentally, as exampled here, could really, really change everything. I'm a strong advocate for universal basic income because I generally believe that everyone should be given a chance to succeed in life, and sometimes people need a helping hand instead of this negative thought that we should only be looking after ourselves and only ourselves. No, we're human beings. We're all humans on this planet. We should all be trying to help out each other. And I think that's really, really important. But honestly, let me know. What do you guys think? And again, if you don't want political lying banned, why? Tell me down in the comments below. If you think it's a good idea that we should ban it, tell me also down in the comments below. If you have any other thoughts with regards to this, let me know down in the comments section below. And if you found this video informative or helpful in any way to you, please hit that like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Share this with other people on social media so others can be notified of this video and make their own decisions themselves. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing because it does help support this channel and the work that I do. But if you want to go one step further and support me in a financial way for the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. You can even join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.